Immediately, I looked at him. I said, you motherfucker. You motherfucker. Bro, I started spinning. My head was spinning. My heart was going a million miles an hour. Immediately, I started projectile vomiting. Everywhere. Bro, for like an hour and a half, the whole time, Jim's coming back. I'm just getting better, bro. Dude, he had a bad one too one day because dudes Mickey'd him. So a lot of times, dude, what dudes were doing in there is they would take 2 stamps or 3 stamps or something like that, where it's supposed to be like a quarter of a stamp or something like that. And they would put it in the other person's pipe and act like they're just smoking the same thing, give it to them, they'd smoke it, and then have a fucking straight up trip.
The autopsy results are pending, and it's believed many of those are also linked to the same cause.
It almost turns your brain into mush, right? So you can get a hemorrhagic stroke, which is a bleed in the brain.
This is bags of evidence uncovered in cells throughout the jail. Because the cells are shared, it's hard to determine who the drug-soaked paper belongs to. The illegal...
Welcome back to the W Number, guys. I'm gonna get into part 2 of the K2 story. This is gonna be totally epic. I'm gonna pick up right where I left off, kinda, right? So P Diddy, we called him. I had been in the medium. It was the first time I got sent to a medium, my whole bid, right? So I go to the medium for 3 months. I break up Paul. I get sent up to the max. I go back to DDU. I had my boy Garvey downstairs in N1 looking out for me, right? So I was always trading duck wellies, gabapentins, my meds basically. And I was on perks for a while for the surgery on my foot. So I'd be trading the pills that I get for other things that I could sell up there or do, right? This story is gonna be probably the most lucrative stretch of my prison sentence that I had, right? So the most comfy time, but it all started up here, man. We would be sitting up there, me and my boy sitting in the cell. We would get a few stamps of deuce and we would sit at night and smoke and watch football and gamble on football and shit. But I didn't like smoking. Like every time I smoked, I wanted to have at least 10 stamps because I didn't want to stop. Like, you just want to keep smoking. I'm not the type of dude that wants to smoke one square and fall back. The shit wears off. I want more. So I was just like, I didn't really do it a lot unless I had enough to go for a little while. You know what I mean? It was like a little binge night, like, picking up fucking crack or something on the streets or something, because that's what that shit really is like. So they call it paper crack. Up in the max, one of my boys that was like the first person I knew, Georgia, he was the first person I really knew that was like addicted to the deuce. Like, he loved the deuce.
K2 Spice and road spray.
Deuce from the time Luigi brought it in until the end. He loved all that deuce. Like, that was his drug. He really didn't do Sobo like that. He would do that once in a while, whereas all the other white dudes really focused on Sobo and would do deuce once in a while. And then there was those specific white dudes that were so cracked out on this shit. You could go in their cell and they would have nothing in their cell but ashes on the floor. You could see in the vent where they had the wicks hanging in the vent, and the wicks would burn all the way up, and there'd be like these little black snake lines going all the way up into their vent. It was like a whole nother world. Like, you see this crazy dynamic with these kids, like, all fucked up on deuce, man. And this is what we're going to talk about today, bro. This is the craziest shit you'll ever hear, dude, right?
In July, we showed you how mail laced with synthetic drugs was getting to inmates, things like birthday cards and legal documents. The inmates tear up the paper and smoke it, leading to prison lockdowns and overdoses.
So I get out of DDU. I go down to M1. When I'm over there, you got, big deuce heads now. The epidemic hit when I was in STP. So when I was up there, K2 exploded. And I'm talking about on a level, like, I couldn't even picture it, or fathom it until I got down there. Like I thought it was just like, oh yeah, there's Deuce down there. Everybody's making money and having a good time and shit, right? And that's true. That was true. But not in the way I thought. You know what I mean? Not in the way I thought, right? Right. So I go downstairs from the SDP. When I get down there, we were about to go to war. The Boyles were splitting in half. We had the Wolf Pack, and then everybody that was running with Georgie over there on N1. And there was about to be some drama, bro. Right before all this started happening, I know you've seen the videos on Jerry Sullivan. So Jerry had his son got knocked out down there on N1. There was a hit on him. And they were supposed to take place for both of them, right? They were supposed to move on Josh and Jerry at the same damn time. But the dude that was supposed to move on Jerry bitched up and stayed back on the block and didn't go through with it. But the kid who was supposed to move on Josh, who's Jerry's son, did go through with it. Hit him up on the top tier, on the high side, on N1, knocked him out. But when he knocked him out, he fell and he hit his head off the bar and like had a seizure. It was pretty dangerous, right? But Jerry ended up getting locked outside. He wasn't even with his son when this happened. And the kid who was supposed to move on him got locked in the sally port, didn't want to do it. Like he bitched up and he said that it was because he got worried and was going to stay back for Josh. That's what he told people, completely denying he was involved in the first place. Which is, I'm down there in M1 and he's down there. Jerry just came back. Jared Remy's there. He played for the Red Sox and he's the announcer, Remy. That's his son. That's the kid who murdered his wife. And I put that in the first video. So he's down there. When I get down there, it was like a dude that was like he was like a K2 kingpin. Like this motherfucker had shit on Smash, right? I had been dealing with him when he was downstairs below me and I was upstairs in DDU. I'd been grabbing shit off him down there. So I already knew what time it is when I get down there. I basically I set him up to get robbed. So I was going to rob him myself, right? We're going to lock in the cell, do all that shit. But one of the people who was supposed to do it, I guess, must have told somebody. And then all of a sudden I'm getting called for urines. They moved my cell and, it just made it really difficult. And I was like, yo, so somebody definitely told on me. I'm not sure if it was that kid that actually was about to get robbed or not, but a month after I leave that block, right? The Bloods run down on him and took him for everything. There was like 4 or 5 different Bloods that ran in there and was like, you know what? We're cleaning you, motherfucker. Like, this is what it is. And took all his shit, bro, right? So the same dudes who claimed they were going to protect him at first, straight up, got him at the end of the day. And salute to all them dudes. They got a major come up, right? But yeah, that was the way this shit was moving, bro. Like, this K2 this is making money. Like, so I'm down there working out with this kid, Mac. Now, this is another thing I did with the K2. So I was down there working out with Mac. This kid, Mac, is jacked. I'm going to make a whole video about my story with him because he was like a revolutionary. This dude
Macintosh walked like a ghost with a trigger finger. He was a man with no mercy and no master. Every scar on his body told a story of survival, vengeance, and a life so deep in the streets that he seemed invincible. But perhaps what made Macintosh so dangerous wasn't to just what he did. It was how many times he should be died, but didn't.
This dude was like a militant black dude, but he didn't see race. Like he wanted all white dudes, all black dudes, all Spanish dudes, everybody to link up and go against the government and the cops. That was his thing. He was on some like militant fucking like shit, bro. But when he seen all the white dudes weren't really with that, like he started getting racist, I think. Like he pulled back from talking to white dudes. He wouldn't talk to really any of them. He talked to me a lot because me and him were really close from the beginning. This kid, me and him had been doing mad time together. Now, he had gone through all kinds of shit. Gang shit against the Asians. And now, what I was doing is, when me and Mac were working out together, me and him, that was my workout partner from DDU. Me and him came out of SDP together. We were both up there together. We're working out down there, doing mad burpees. Like we would go out in the rec deck and we would do 4 car decks. We would just take 4 card decks, shuffle them together, and just flip them. And we wouldn't take breaks. We would just do the whole card deck. And what I would do is I would smoke a square of deuce and go out there and work out. Halfway through, I'd go back in, take another puff, and go back out. I didn't even need to take breaks. This shit was like a fucking straight up pre-workout stimulant. This shit had me gassed to the fucking max, dude. Like I was so ready to work out. Like this shit really amplified my workouts. I don't care how crazy you think that sounds. This shit was ill, really. And then I come to find out that salvia, one of the ingredients, that salvia is a pre-workout stimulant. And they put it in a lot of pre-workout drinks and shit. So it actually is. And that's what was really happening. And I was getting this crazy stimulant effect from it. And I was just working out. It didn't stay like that though. I kept on smoking. And the more I smoked, I don't know if it was because the deuce changed or because I changed because I was doing so much of it. But I would smoke and work out. But then I started smoking and getting tired or lazy and not doing it or getting so whacked out I wouldn't work out like that. And then I started working out without the deuce, and then smoking after and shit like that, trying to balance this new little addiction I had, right? But I'm dealing with my boy Garvey over on N1 still. God rest his soul. Garvey was, one of the greatest men I ever met in my life. No bullshit. He really was one of the best men I ever met in my life. He took care of his family though, and himself and all his friends around him. Never had anger towards anybody or hate towards anybody. He was a pure gentleman if I've ever met one, right? So, and he took one perk 30 that he didn't think was pressed. He thought it was a regular perk 30 and died from that one perk 30. So, and he's one of those guys you could never see dying from an overdose. He's just so put together. He's a good looking dude. And that's somebody with an addiction. Like he liked opiates, he liked other shit, and he would chew the deuce, but he would never go overboard with that shit. That was his cash cow, and he leaned on it, and that was it. He didn't fucking use it like that. Like he just chewed some at nighttime and would save the little things and give them to me in the morning. Like, so this kid's, I'm dealing with Jimmy over there. And we had at this time only been trading like a half a strip for Johnny's. He liked my gabapentin. So we would trade for gabapentin. He would send me like a half a strip and I would do that. I didn't care about deuce. I didn't really, like I said, I didn't do it like that. If I wanted to do it, I would do it right before I worked out. And there was so much of it. Any one of my friends could have gave me a square for free or 2 for free or 10 for free or 20 for free. It didn't even matter. All my boys were getting this shit. And in the max, the white dudes had the deuce on smash. This was a drug that a lot of like the white guys looked at as like a black drug or a Spanish drug, drugs that we didn't use. And like a lot of our white guys would frown on the other, like the bros that were like really fucked up on this shit because it really made you look crazy. You know what I mean? So guys will look at it like it was more for other people than for us. But I never see anything like that. You know what I mean? But it is similar. Like it really is like that. A lot of black dudes like to smoke it. It was like a weed for them. You know what I mean? It was.
That nigga stuck in the corner. Look at him. Oh, you good, man? How you started? I was trying to hit me now. I know y'all be twagging.
And that's not being racist. That's just being real. You know what I mean? And every black dude watching this will tell you the same shit. They didn't do the opiates, but they did the K2. And I'm not saying either one's better than the other. I could guarantee you K2's worse. You know what I mean? But and it's very addicting like crack. So, and it's got opiate withdrawal symptoms when you come off of it too. Like it's not just addicting, it's got opiate withdrawal symptoms.
For some of these items that are used every single day, they pose serious health risk and they're hiding in plain sight. 50 correctional officers from the Cook County Sheriff's Department are searching Division 11 Tier CJ. 40 inmates in custody here are charged with murder or attempted murder.
Me and him are just doing that. I hadn't gotten the deuce from him yet like that. I mean, he might have sent me some just to hustle over there. My boy B on that block was giving me some to hustle and shit. And I was making a little bit of money, but I wasn't doing it. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like that. I was just selling most of it and just making that little bit of money. It was just enough to get by, like canteen money, enough to buy some strips, you know what I mean? To do my strips and shit. And that was it. I didn't really look for anything big because I just wanted to be comfortable through my whole bid. That was my goal, is just to be comfortable and chill, have everything I need, never want for nothing. That was it. Take care of my family, not need to ask them for money, because that is such a drain on the population. People at home getting leaked for money from their people in prison. I took pride in the fact that I could take care of myself and not have to ask my family or my mother for money when she's out there struggling much harder than I was in there. I go over to Nike One. They take me off. Michael One was the orientation unit. So after I came out of DDU, they put you over there for a little bit and then move you to your block. So I get moved over to Nike One, which is, they put all the thoroughbreds down there, old school dudes, the guys that have been around for a long ass time. So I get over there and K2 is massive. You got the plug. Like, we had it, but he was responsible with it. Like if you had episodes and shit, he would stop giving it to you. You know what I mean? Like he wanted responsible people.
He been touched when he was a child.
You make the block hot. And let's keep it real. I'm gonna get into why they shut the mail down, why they did all this extra shit.
What the fuck you doing, man?
And it's not just because of the deuce. They can live with us getting high in there. They can't live with spending money on us getting high in there. As long as it doesn't affect their bottom line, I think we would have been straight. But because it did, that's what made them crack down and stop this shit like they did, right? I go over to N1. Right when I get over there, my boy hits me with a quarter page. So I get a quarter page of this shit and I'm breaking it down and selling it, bro. That's when my friend Garrett moves over. So Garrett moves into my cell. Now, God rest his soul, one of my best friends in this whole entire world. Garrett is addicted to K2. Garrett loved the deuce, bro. He would smoke deuce, but he didn't really do sober like that. He would do it if I had it, but he wasn't going and buying it like that. And they had moved Jerry over there to that block. He was on the high side with us. My friend Duffy was over there. You know, we had a little squad over there. It was like some good dudes, my boy Jake, all these dudes over there, bro. Just good ass dudes, dude. Like guys that were like thoroughbreds, really liked, you know, doing good business and making money. The administration always looked at N1 for being, you know, smooth. We run our own block. You send cops over there that don't interfere, because that what happens is Fuller gets smashed out because he comes over there acting like a juvenile, trying to prove a point, calling people bitches and punks. So what the administration does is sends over cops that are cool. They know the block's gonna run itself. So it runs itself, right? Gave me on that DDU sentence. And for 2 years, I was up there. During that stretch of time up there, my brother had got into a beef with the cops. And what they said happened, right? So I'm going to get into this story because I think it's really important. And the fact that it happened, it shouldn't just be left at that, right? Because there's way more to this story than just him moving on cops, right? So Ryan got involved with this gang called the Crazy White Boys, but this had nothing to do with them. Right? This is just the fact that he was with them. They tried to make it something else, right? He's up on N2, right? This is a Chow Hall block. He's over there, just got down from the hole. He had got sent back to the hole for 30 days. Now, this is the third time he got sent back to the hole for 30 days for missing his door at the end of rec or missing it during chow or something. The cops were on his back. They didn't want him on the block. He didn't listen to anything they said. He had no respect for these cops, because really, what they had been doing is they've been running down on him, taking his property, fucking with him, because he wasn't compliant. Like, he didn't give a fuck about their rules. He was cutting the shelves, this shit, giving knives to all the white dudes. And, you know, people snitch and they know what's going on. Ryan's a beast, and he's having people, you know, he's influencing people. He's becoming that person, like, that they are afraid of. You know what I mean? They're afraid of powerful people like my brother, and they seen this happening. And so they started fucking with him, harassing him, making sure that he wasn't comfortable anywhere he went, kept on going back to the box. Anytime he got into a fight, they would STG and throw him in DDU for many years at a time. So he had just got out of DDU too. So when he's coming back, he's trying to, like, you know, get his mind right. And these cops keep fucking with him, harassing him, taking his TV, you know, saying it's not on his books, not giving it back to him. Ryan's got, you know, ADHD and other mental health that he shouldn't be sitting in his cell with nothing to do, and they're fucking with him. Right? They're not allowing him to use his account. He's got freezes on his account sky high. He's got no way to get canteen because his account's so frozen that any money that goes into his account, the state's taking. It's driving you mad. That's what they do. They drove him absolutely insane. So when he was going to the box on this last trip, the CO Wood came to his door and he was like, yo, when you get out of the box, he's like, I'm going to be here waiting for you. You know what I mean? Like, and we're going to lug you again, like on some shit. Like, and so Ryan said, oh yeah. So when I get out of the box, you're the one I'm fucking up then. Because he had it in his head like he was just gonna fuck somebody up, because he couldn't deal with this shit no more. And I do not blame him. Any man has a limit. You know what I mean? Every single man has a limit. And when you already don't have anything, the limit gets shorter and shorter. But Ryan put up with so fucking much, right? So by the time this shit's happening, he's going to the box. He tells the cop, like, yo, look, when I got out of the box, you're the one I'm fucking up. Boom, he gets out of the box. When he was in the box, though, me and him were talking. I kept on telling him, don't go back that block, man. My boys are all down on N1. Now they're boyos. Ryan was a C-dub. We had smoke. But all my friends were willing to take him in and accept him on the strength that he was my twin brother and he was a solid motherfucker, solid as they come, bro, right? Not for nothing. And he was around people that were not giving him the right type of advice, the right type of like, you know, don't do this because it's not worth it type shit. They're all gassing his head up. They want to see the violence. They know Ryan's a live wire. They know he's about that and he doesn't have any qualms with it. So they're just gassing him up. And now he's not a crash test dummy. Ryan's going to do what he does. But if you don't have people kind of giving you sense, then everything you're thinking, they're just adding fuel to the flame. So it's like, yeah, he's got his mindset already and they're just making it easier for him. You know what I mean? It wasn't like he was getting crashed out. You know what I mean? Like he was doing his own thing because his own reasons. You know what I mean? And people just love that shit, right? Because they don't have the balls to do it themselves. You know what I mean? Ryan comes down from the hole. I was on the rec deck. I was actually fishing up some deuce and some Sobo, right? I had a little bit of K2 and a little bit of Sobo coming up, right? And it was on his unit. Now, the kid I was fishing with didn't even tell me my brother just got out of the box, right? He knew what was going to happen. I feel like everybody over there kind of knew what was about to happen. You know what I mean? Dudes were getting everything ready before the doors locked and all that shit. No one told me, or else I would have had Ryan on that rec deck screaming at him like, yo, dude, this is not what it is, bro. You can't, because this is just, it's, you know, I know it's very hard to deal with, but we got to figure out another way, man, because this shit is crazy, bro, right? I don't even know what's going on, bro, right? So they come over and tell us all to get off the rec deck. There's a freeze up going on, but we didn't even hear it because we're outside and they didn't even hit the alarm yet. They just come out and they looked really serious and they were all staring at me. And I'm like, why? What the fuck's going on? This is mad weird, right? So they come over, they're staring at me and I'm like, dude, what the fuck? They're taking us all in, locking us in, institutional lockdown. I'm like, what happened? And they're like, you know what happened. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like, what happened? You know what I mean? And they're just assuming, I'm thinking they're just assuming all the convicts are going to know. You know what I mean? It's not like something's particular to me. I'm just thinking like, oh, you know what happened? Like, oh, the cop got moved on or something. Like, yeah, I'm assuming I know what happened. Cop got moved on. But what? In general, like what block, where? You know what I mean? Who? But and a lot of times the COs will tell you, because like I said, I've been around for a long ass time. They would have told me, you know what I mean? Like what the deal was, but because it was so vicious and so close to me, they were just not even saying nothing, right? I go back into my cell. There's one of my friends, he's a Haitian kid. His name's P. He's from Boston. He was locked up for stabbing in the shelter. He ended up killing somebody when he was 18 years old, allegedly, and got a life sentence with no parole. And he's been up there. He was actually up in DDU for one of the most vicious cop assault beatings on a convict I've ever seen. His eye was out to here. The cops that actually beat him really got fired. That's how bad it was. And you know that don't ever happen, right? That was I'll think of his name, bro. That CO that did it. Samson got fired for that shit. Red-headed CO. They beat him up bad. They dragged him in the back room on P1 in the office and just crushed him out, bro. But not before P knocked out two of them and gave Shaw, this CO Shaw, rocked his world, dude. I watched the video, like you could see his legs just jello up and just boom, hit the ground, dude. Like he fucked these dude up. But anyways, he's coming back from court. He comes up on the tier and he tells me, he's like, yo, Maddie, bro. He's like, I just seen your brother and some other dude getting dragged down into booking and it didn't look good, bro. And I said, whoa, bro, because I just heard there was a staff assault and then the staff got stabbed. That was the word. His guys were saying the staff member got stabbed. And I'm like, wait a second, you know, they're dragging my brother down there and this is all going on. Like, was he involved in that? So I called the Medic 5. I called the crisis, which is like mental health. They'll pull you out. Technically, it's only supposed to be used for suicidal convicts or whatever. But because I was doing long-term solitary confinement, my mental health worker said, like, if I ever need to talk, just call crisis. They'll come see me, blah, blah, blah. But so I call them and I'm thinking maybe they'll tell me something. They'll tell me what's going on with my brother, right? So they get up there. They won't talk to me. And I'm telling her, like, yo, I know you know what's going on. They won't tell me. And I'm like, yo, this is so fucking weird, man. What the fuck happened? They come in to get me to go back to my cell after the crisis call. And I told them straight up, there was a CO back. I said, yo, I ain't leaving, bro. I am not leaving here. I'm not leaving until you tell me what's up. I want to know what happened. And against his better judgment, he told me. He told me that my brother stabbed the CO. And I thought he really stabbed the CO. Everybody really thought he stabbed the CO because of the amount of blood. But what really happened is, I'm about to get into it. So come to find out, when Ryan came down to the block that day, he had grabbed some stuff to get high with, whatever. The cops were giving him a hard time again. Like, You know, don't miss your door, just being wise and shit, right? So allegedly what happened is the cop Wood was gonna do a round. Everybody kind of knew what was gonna happen on the block, so everybody was grabbing their shit. You know, the tension was high. You could tell something's about to go on the block when you're looking from the cameras or something like that. You could tell everybody's bouncing around, going door to door, going back to cell, whatever. You know what I mean? Like you could tell the movement, right? Somebody goes to the desk. Now I don't know why they went to the desk, but it was this kid. Allegedly, it was this kid Butler. Now he's got a life sentence for a murder now, but he didn't at this time. He was going home. Right? So this kid goes up to the desk and tells him, hey, he tells the CO something's going on with the toilet down here, whatever. He probably wants you to talk to him or something. And they had the mop bucket down there, something like that, and making it look like whatever, something's going on with the toilet. But the cop says, I'm about to do the mail, so when I come around, I'll check it out. So Wood grabs the mail and he starts doing his round on the high side first, right? He goes up along the high side, he's walking up, gets to about my brother's cell, which is almost in the back of the unit. And my brother's in the cell. So the curtain's up in my brother's cell. Wood walks by, he peeks into the curtain. As soon as he opens the curtain, boom! Allegedly, as soon as he opens the curtain, Ryan just lit him. Boom! Hit him good, dude, right? And he starts, lighting him up. Ryan's a professional fighter. He could fight. But Wood's head hit the corner of the door the way he punched him. I don't know how it happened, but Wood's face hit off the corner of the door, and there's these two little runners like this that come out. They stick out. So it looks like if you get hit like that, it's gonna look like you got slashed in the face with a weapon. So when he hit his face off the door, he spun around, fell face first on the ground. To allegedly, the kid Sean didn't really do much. Like he threw a couple of kicks, and while Ryan was fighting, this CO Anderson, he totally snapped. They pushed him to his absolute breaking point. He totally snapped. Coming over into N1, right when I walked into the Sally Port, I could smell the K2 smoke. It was like paper and tea mixed together. Like you could smell it strong. And the difference is it was crazy because it reminded me of back in the day when I would walk into the unit and you could smell the booze. The booze was mad strong. Like my friend Bobby's down there. My friend Bobby D from Fall River. Salute to you, brother. Yeah, Bobby and this kid Finney were cellies, right? They come over to my cell. Both of them smoke deuce. Both of them are really bad on the deuce. Like these are the white dudes. When it first started coming around, there was those white dudes that were hooked on it. The longer it was there, the less. And that's some real shit. Not to say we didn't do it, because I did it. Other people did it. It was just not as bad. Like they liked it more. That was their thing. You know what I mean? Like black dudes, whatever. That was their thing because they weren't allowed to do Suboxone. They weren't allowed to do those other drugs. So smoking was like weed, and their people let them do it. So they were all on that shit. You know what I mean?
I'm talking about my dog he got the Balenci's on, nigga. Fuck you mean, nigga. I'm talking about big hoes.
Finney comes over one day. Now they're trying to buy deuce off me. Finney buys 10 squares from me. I give him the 10 squares, whatever. And he's like, you mind if I smoke a hit in here? So he takes a stamp. Now at this time I was making stamps 60 off an eighth a page. So you know, they were big stamps. So he rips the stamp off and puts it in the pipe and smokes the stamp. Bro grabs onto the stairs. I look at him and I never seen anybody have an episode before. I didn't even know what an episode was. And I guess guys had all seen it down there, but weren't really talking about like that because it was so few and far between. Like we had heard of them, like people smashing their TVs and going crazy. And coming out.
Getting crazy behind me. We're seeing it in Colorado. We just seeing it. Look at all these niggas right here, man. These niggas scared. Hold on. He's so ugly.
This one was different. It was like he grabs onto the stair and starts going back and forth like this. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, yo, you all right? You all right, bro? And he's looking at me smiling. He won't say nothing. I'll just stand up off my bed to be like, because I'm starting to be like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on, And he backs up into my curtain. His back hit my curtain. I'm like, oh shit. So I go to grab him because it's looking like we're fighting in there. He's going back and forth into the curtain, out of the curtain. Like the curtain's going like this. And I'm in cell 28 all the way up near the desk. Bro, the cops are probably looking at it like, yo, something's going on in there, bro. This kid's probably twacked out. Like, Bro, the kid was going in and out, going, yo, I know they seen this shit, but I'm like, yo, bro, as soon as that started happening, I fucking pulled my curtain open so it didn't look like I was trying to hide nothing. And I left. I said, Bobby, I'm sorry, but I'm leaving. I can't be here. He's going to get me lugged. And fucking, I go up on the top tier. I'm sitting with Jimmy and I'm telling him, like, yo, dude, this is what's going on. Like, this kid's down there bugging out. He's like, oh, he's having an episode. And I'm like, an episode? What the fuck is that? He's like, bro, it's been happening. He's like, dudes get all whacked out and they start getting delusional and don't even know what's going on. I'm like, what? I'm like, so how long is this gonna last for? He's like, I don't even know. So I'm like, oh man, dude, right? So I go down to my cell. I'm gonna tell him, like, yo, you gotta go, like, go to your cell, go back to your cell. Like, I don't even know if you can understand me, but when I get down there, Bobby's in there, and this kid's in his underwear, and he's putting my thermal top, the one that goes on my arms, he's trying to put my thermal top, his leg through my arm of the sleeve of my thermal top. He's got my drawer open. He's putting my clothes on wrong. I'm like, yo, Bobby, get this motherfucker out of my cell. I ripped my fucking thermal away from him. Like, get this motherfucker out of my cell, bro. This is crazy. Like, he's gonna get me lugged, bro. I was like, Bobby, you gotta get him out of here, dude. Like, carry him down to his cell. Do something, bro, please. He's like, all right, Maddie, all right, bro. So they get him out of there. That was my first experience with a fucking episode. But the thing is that it didn't just end like that. So, like, when I was in the cell with him right before I left, like, one of the things he did was I looked at him when he actually sat on my bed at one point, and I looked at him and I'm like, Finny, all right? And he goes, ah! And he's like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? He's like, you just hit me. And he starts crying, bro, saying I hit him, dude. I'm like, whoa, that's when I left. I forgot to say that part. That's when I left. But I'm like, yo, this shit is really wild, bro. Bro, like, you see some crazy shit. Like, I didn't even know what was about to come yet. So that happens. Now, me and Garrett start smoking deuce together in the cell sometimes at night, whatever. But every time I smoke with him, we start arguing. It's like this instant reaction. If I'm high and he's high, we're fighting. We're arguing. And it's crazy, bro, right? It doesn't, nothing happens yet, but we're arguing over this dude. Like, the deuce got him acting so crazy. I'm like he'd ask me the same question over and over and over again and expect different answers. Like, and I'm like, yo, dude, like, I'd start arguing with him. I'm like, why the fuck you doing this, bro? Like, this is mad annoying, bro. Like, stop, bro. Like, shut up. Like, you know, one morning, me and him are in there sleeping, dude, right? We hear this, ooh, ooh. And I look up, I'm like, yo, what the fuck is going on, bro? I see there's cops at the desk and shit, and you can hear, like, every once in a while, like, a really, like, tink, 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 like someone smacking metal on a window, dude. And then you hear moo, ee-yaw, ee-yaw, moo. And he's making animal noises, bro, right? I'm like, yo, what the fuck? It's 8 in the morning, dude, right? And then you can hear commotion, squeaking feet, and then you can hear bink, 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 bink. I got a knife and I ain't afraid to use it. I got a knife and I ain't afraid to use it. Ding, 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 ding. Bro, my friend Iraq, this black kid, bro, from Atlanta, bro, he's down there in cell 31, right up next to the desk, beating up his cellmate, Jizz. And coming back to the window, he'd go back, hook off on him, go up to the window, smack the window, make some animal noises, and scream, tell the cops who are looking at him and, like, on the phone and all the shit. He's smacking the knife on the window, like, I got a knife, bitch. I ain't afraid to use it. I got a knife, bitch. I ain't afraid to use it. Bro, these motherfuckers come down to get him now. This is the first time I seen an Uber, right? This is what is called an Uber, right? And they come down and get this dude, bro, right? And they come down with a stretcher. Bro, he's flopping around, making animal noises. They're restraining him. His poor cellmate gets lugged because he was involved in there. He was in the cell when allegedly drugs were being used or whatever or something. But they lug them both, bro. Poor kid just gets beat up and has a terrible experience with his cell. He whacked out on some crazy drug and fucking almost stabbed or whatever. Like, the kid was threatening him with the knife. You know what I mean? Like, holding it to his throat and shit. Like, the kid must have been horrified, bro, right? All boosted on K2, fucking telling the cops he's gonna stab him and shit. Like, I could only imagine what was going through the kid's head. Then he's in the hole, like, how the fuck did I get here? Like, he didn't even do nothing. The kid was in school. He was the nicest kid ever, dude. Never did nothing, bro. But he did smoke deuce, so he might have been high when that happened, and that's probably why he got lugged. Dude, he had a bad one too one day because dudes Mickey'd them. So a lot of times, what dudes were doing in there is they would take 2 stamps or 3 stamps or something like that, where it's supposed to be like a quarter of a stamp or something like that. And they would put it in the other person's pipe and act like they're just smoking the same thing, give it to them, they'd smoke it, and then have a fucking straight up trip.
8 autopsy results are pending, and it's believed many of those are also linked to the same cause.
It almost turns your brain into mush, right? So you can get a hemorrhagic stroke, which is a bleed in the brain.
This is bags of evidence uncovered in cells throughout the jail. Because the cells are shared, it's hard to determine who the drug-soaked paper belongs to.
Bro, that shit was fucking kind of funny sometimes, but one day I'm sitting in the cell. We were watching football. I'd stayed back from gym. My boy Jimmy Gary. I was staying back because I was doing the book at the time. I was running the book, so I was taking bets. I was doing the fantasy football league, so I was taking down all the scores, all the things like that. You know, taking down the game numbers. It was college day or Saturday afternoon, so we had gym, and everybody else goes to gym really, but the people who are really into football. So Jimmy stayed back with me. Jimmy Gary. Salute to Jimmy too. I just talked to him on the phone yesterday. Man, dude, he was doing a life bid, but because of the juvenile law, Jimmy Gary's coming home free man, bro. And as soon as he does, he's coming on the W Number podcast. This is a guy that was in the Marines. Anyways, he comes down to my cell. We're watching football. So he wants to smoke deuce. I have a rule. I don't smoke deuce until at least after dinner, but more like 8 o'clock after first rec is over. After first night rec is over. So whoever is out on first rec, it doesn't matter if I'm out on first rec or they're out on first rec. If I come out on second rec, I can smoke on that rec. I didn't like smoking with my door open, but he's trying to talk me into smoking. I'm like, Jimmy, I don't want to smoke, bro. I don't want to smoke. I was like, I told you, if you come and you hang out in my cell instead of going to gym, I'm not smoking, period. As soon as he gets in there, he's trying to talk me into smoking. He likes smoking. So I'm like, no, bro, I'm not smoking. Bro, he talks me into smoking and Mickey's me, dude. Bro, I have an episode. I'm throwing up all over the cell. I'm fucking projectile vomiting on the floor. So this kid, right, we put the stamps on the TV. He packed his and smoked it and then grabbed it off the TV, packed mine and smoked it. He must have had one and he was fucking with me, bro. Put it in the stamp. He said he thought I'd like it because I don't do it like that. He thought, oh, let him get really high on it and he'll like it. No. George did this to me before. I don't like this shit, bro, right? So he gives it to me, dude, bro. Immediately, I looked at him. I said, you motherfucker, bro. I started spinning. My head was spinning. My heart was going a million miles an hour. Immediately, I started projectile vomiting. Everywhere. I'm in the fucking toilet, just bro, for like an hour and a half, the whole time. Jim's coming back. I'm just getting better, bro. I grabbed Jimmy. I'm like, yo, you fucking piece of shit. I was so mad. It's a testament to my self-willpower that I didn't do nothing stupid, bro. And because he was my good friend and he would have fucking killed somebody for me. So I'm going to beat him up over having, you know what I mean, a joke or something. But anyways, that was the type of shit motherfuckers was doing, bro, right? My boy Kicker and Duffy, they were in the cell over there, dude, right? And I come by now. Kicker's famous for having seizures. That's why they call him Kicker, because he'll sniff wellies and then all of a sudden he'll just flop out having a seizure and shit. But I come over there and there's puke all over the floor. Fucking Duffy's out cold. God rest his soul. My friend, my good brother Duffy, bro. He's out on the floor. Matter of fact, you know what I was just talking about? Is remember when you were in the cell with Duffy and you guys were tripping out on the K2?
Yeah, what about it?
Yo, remember I came by one day and you were like walking around in your socks and Duffy was on the floor and fucking there was like throw up everywhere.
He got up and he smashed his eye on the fucking corner of the fucking shelf, bro. It was the worst, bro. It was so bad, bro.
I remember coming by and just seeing puke and blood everywhere. Yeah. You and your damn socks, them things are like half soaked in puke. Like his socks are like halfway off and they're soaked in puke. So they're flopping around and he's walking back and forth like, I don't know what to do. If they walk by, he's got the curtain up and Duffy's on the floor going and foaming at the mouth, dude. It was so fucking crazy. I'm like, yo, what the fuck, dude? But, that was the type of thing you would walk by and see in people's cells, dude, right? Like people just outright madness. But when the doors crack and guys are high, you could see him all in the tears. He was walking around. It looks like zombie land, dude, right?
Don't do it, Zay. Let me say something. No. King. Look at the nigga, bro. Bro, you ugly. The other sister right here crying. Hold on, hey, Zach. Come here, Zach. The other sister right here crying. Oh, CC don't want it. Ah, CC, hey, get CC another blunt, nigga. CC say, fuck that. Get CC another blunt, nigga. Yeah, nigga. Yeah.
Absolute mayhem, dude. But anyways, I spent a long time down there on that block like that. And at one point, I remember sitting in my cell. I had my foot up on the stool and I was smoking deuce. And I would take a little bit of Sobo, smoke some deuce, and fall back. And I literally would feel like I was on heroin. You know what I mean? I get gnawed and shit like that. But I remember thinking in my head, like, yo, I could do this. I can do a life bid. I felt like a boss. I had shit on Smash. I was making tons of money. I had like 5 pairs of street sneakers. Fucking, I was doing okay for myself without getting in trouble and all. The Ips kept on grabbing me and throwing me in the box. Kept grabbing me, throwing me in the box. Moving forward from there, the rest of my bid is really, it's locked down with the deuce, bro. But Garvey took his time. He ended up getting 7 years for his case, but he had already served like 5 of them and only had like a few years left or something like that. I can't get into too much of this story like I want to, but I think it's enough to just talk about how crazy these episodes were. You know what I mean? And just how the atmosphere was. Like, you could see this every single day. You would have code 99s, Ubers, code 99. They'd be calling on the loudspeaker like, code 99 M1, code 99 M1, code 99 P1, code 99 P1. And it was like, you could tell where this shit was hitting because there'd be like 4 or 5 code 99s a day there. Bro, what ended up really happening to the Max and to the mail and shit was guys were going out on stretchers left and right, dude, like having the craziest episodes. My friend grabbed the railing and was screaming his pussy hurts, like, violent ones too, where people would assault people and shit like that. And the cops, they were having pickets outside, picket lines where people were standing out front of the prison, like the road leading down to Shirley Max and Shirley Medium in the minimum, that road. They would stand out there, they put signs in the dirt, and they were holding signs, and there was tons of people out there, families of the incarcerated, families of the COs, people, all kinds of people were out there. K2 kills, K2 kills, K2 kills, K2 kills. And they would stay out there all day doing this shit. Like, they did not want their family in there with this K2 because the cops are coming home saying they had weird symptoms from the secondhand smoke and shit. But it wasn't true. That shit's total garbage. But they could get paid like that, so they did, But what ended up happening is these code 99s kept on running money up every time they send somebody. So when you OD on deuce, it's called a code 99, but it's an overdose. It's an overdose. So they have to send you to the hospital. At first, they weren't doing that. They'd put you in a drunk tank up in the HSU, leave you there for a little bit, and let you go home. This shit just got so crazy that they couldn't do that no more. They just kept on sending people to the hospital because somebody died. Another aspect to this story is on the south side of the prison when this is all going on, there was a dude named Beach, a CO named Beach. He was over there. He was a CO. He was bringing in mad drugs to the compound. One of the things he was bringing in was the liquid vials of K2. When they finally caught that situation, it was going on for months, but when they finally caught Beach for bringing in this shit, obviously a convict snitched on him, and it was one of the people involved. But salute to my friend Greenhorn, who was one of the dudes doing all that shit with him. Kept it solid, but he got snitched on. And when they come through to raid the camp for those drugs, looking for all the shit that was still there or whatever, or the cell phone that was supposedly still there that he brought, or whatever they were looking for still, they come through with a shakedown. When they came through with the shakedown, they peeled across the block to one of the kids who was actually getting the shit. And he had a bottle of K2, a whole bottle in his cell, and he swallowed it. He drank the whole bottle. Now, one bottle, you can make 2.5 pages with that one bottle. So for him, and now I'm saying 2.5 pages. On those 2.5 pages, you can smoke a piece of that page this big and maybe have an episode. Now, he drank a whole bottle. He got sent to the hospital and was in a coma. They took pictures of him with tubes down his throat, tubes up his nose, on a respirator. and they put them all over the prison saying this is the dangers of K2, don't smoke it. Then they had mental health counselors coming around asking their clients if they smoke K2 and trying to tell them the dangers of this shit with keeping it confidential. Obviously I wasn't into it at the time. They just, you know, they would be like, oh, I hope you're not smoking K2, you know, I hope that if you do, you know, you can talk about it because, you know, the reason why you do it is probably, you know, we need to get to the bottom of that because that's the, you know, but they weren't doing none of that. They didn't give a shit. You know what I mean? They didn't give a shit. They just didn't want to spend money on that shit, bro, right? So they shut it down. They changed the mail to photocopy mail. Everything that's coming in from the streets is photocopied. So if it's, unless it's legal mail or business mail of some sort, it's coming in photocopy. It's like you can't even get a letter from your own family and smell your grandmother's perfume or some shit, bro, right? There's so much more to this story. I want to make sure I get it all in there. I appreciate everybody for showing up, but I want to break them down to a little bit shorter videos. Make sure you watch the whole thing. I appreciate everybody, man. Shout out and salute to all you.
The system.
Holly Butt's husband, Corbin, is an inmate at Faribault Correctional. She says his life behind bars shouldn't mean living in lockdown every time another inmate overdoses on illegal drugs.
Either you're in isolation in a single bunk cell, right, with no communication from anybody else, or in Faribault you're in a double bunk room where there isn't a chair for each of the people to sit in the cell. So you have to sit in your bed. However, the bunks aren't high enough that you can sit up straight.
At Stillwater Correctional, inmates were locked down for nearly 2 days after an overdose last month. The responding officers themselves started feeling sick after being exposed to the drugs. 9 were sent to the hospital.
I think for myself that this is an issue of supply and demand. And the solution would be reduce the demand for the drugs.
The demand must still be high because offenders continue to find new ways to smuggle in what they want.
So, how's the evidence bag, huh? We have a few things today we'd like to show.
Now it's books and magazines. One page among hundreds laced with a synthetic narcotic. John Melvin is the director of the Department of Corrections' Office of Special Investigations.
This came through an intelligence-built case where we either through our resources at the facility and we were able to intercept it.
I don't even see the stain. I don't even see a discoloration or anything here.
That is the very difficult thing with it, is you won't see a stain. It could actually be in the actual print.
Like the ink?
It could be in the ink.
It's my understanding that books, magazines, they're shipped directly to prisons from Barnes & Noble, from Amazon. No one delivers them. So how does this happen then?
So someone at one of the third-party vendors could be altering this into a contraband, or a loved one could take it and do it and then bring it back and have it shipped in. So we're trying to tighten up all those holes that we would call holes of introduction.
Are you in contact with Amazon and visiting their warehouses? Do you talk with Barnes & Noble or other booksellers?
That's something that's pretty active right now, but we will be looking at finding out ways that we could reduce this.
The newly discovered contraband comes only a few months after the Minnesota Department of Corrections introduced new protocols to screen and scan paper mail to slow down drug smuggling. It was working. New data from the DOC shows the number of drug incidents and hospitalizations were down since June. But then Stillwater happened. That the most significant event when it comes to how it affected corrections officers?
Yes, that we've seen so far.
Melvin said it's likely the drugs used that day in Stillwater were smuggled in before the new mail protocols.
This stuff comes in such small doses that are very strong. It takes a while to use it up.
To counter the book and magazine threat, prison officials told WCCO Investigates they're considering options to basically scan everything, or maybe even bring in tablets.
If we don't have the paper, it's pretty hard to smoke a digital image. You know what I mean?
Loved ones like Holly Bott, though, aren't all on board, especially since her husband relies on books for learning. But she's hoping for the best.
The people they are in there is who they will be when they're released. So improve that situation to improve your community. It just makes sense to me.